The skies of war in Donbas once again bore silent witness to how modern technology can peel back the last layer of the enemy's illusion of courage. This Ukrainian drone strike not only halted the Russian troops' advance, but also revealed the harsh reality. Within the invaders, there was nothing but darkness and despair. Footage of the operation released by the Ukrainian UAV unit shows a group of Russian infantry attempting to force their way forward. While they were moving in open ground without adequate cover, as if trusting that luck would compensate for their tactical folly. The column marched slowly, traversing the bare terrain that offered little protection. However, what they thought was courage turned out to be an invitation to death. High above, Ukrainian reconnaissance drones monitored every movement. Real-time information immediately relayed to the FPV operators waiting behind the lines. When the right moment arrived, an explosive-laden drone shot through the air at high speed, making a distinctive whirring sound that has become a nightmare for every Russian soldier on the front lines. The first impact instantly shattered the enemy formation. The explosion shook the ground, throwing bodies in disorienting directions. Some soldiers tried to flee, but in vain. In the open, there was nowhere to hide from the sharp electronic eyes and precision of the Ukrainian suicide machines. And one by one, their movements were halted in a cloud of smoke and metal shrapnel. This attack was not simply the elimination of a military target, but also a contrasting picture of two worlds: Ukrainian troops utilizing technological sophistication, tactical discipline, and the will to survive for the sake of their homeland. And on the other side, Russian soldiers thrown onto the battlefield aimlessly, walking in self-created darkness. In a military context, this attack underscored the effectiveness of FPV drones as a tool to destroy enemy morale. Not only do they halt physical movement, but they also break the opponent's courage and resolve. Every second of the footage demonstrates that modern battlefields are no longer won by sheer numbers, but by who adapts technology more quickly and integrates it with strategy. The video ends with a bare ground, leaving only rubble, smoke, and the bodies of the enemy, still motionless. The darkness that enveloped them was now real, not only in their hearts, but also on the battlefield. Meanwhile, from the Pokrovsk direction in Donetsk Oblast, the long-hyped campaign ended with scattered assaults and troops abandoning vehicles in panic. Russia's offensive around Pokrovsk has finally collapsed into disorganized, scattered assaults, exposing the total breakdown of its campaign. Seizing the moment, Ukrainian forces struck back with momentum, liberating another key town and turning the tide of the battle. The fighting around Pokrovsk has entered a new phase, where the intensity of Russian assaults on the flanks has clearly declined, and their once grand offensive has fractured into scattered, uncoordinated attacks. Meanwhile, what remains is little more than small groups probing Ukrainian defenses, seemingly just to avoid a complete halt that would openly expose the failure of the Russian campaign. On the western flank near Udachny, Russian efforts have been reduced to chaotic infiltration attempts without any combined arms support. On the eastern flank near Mirnohrad, the story is much the same, with piecemeal assaults ending in abandonment of vehicles and panicked retreats under Ukrainian fire. The larger picture is unmistakable, as the Russian encirclement attempts around Pokrovsk have fallen apart. Ukraine has seized the opportunity to strike back, and near Udachny, the lack of Russian coordination was turned against them. Ukrainian forces launched a deliberate push, clearing the settlement and raising the national flag over its center. What had been temporarily filled with scattered Russian infiltrators was retaken swiftly, with videos showing Ukrainian units inside the village. The half-hearted Russian attempts to regain ground have been nothing short of disastrous. Assaults sent down predictable roads ended with fields littered with bodies, creating roads of death that Ukrainians controlled tightly with drones and artillery. A similar pattern unfolded near Mirnohrad on the eastern flank, where the Ukrainians knocked out a handful of Russian armored assaults before moving in to finish off the remnants. Footage from near Hrodivka shows Russian soldiers abandoning positions and fleeing under pressure from Ukrainian Marines in hot pursuit, confirming that momentum has swung decisively on this flank as well. It is in this environment of failure that the Russian command has once again turned to bizarre symbolic operations to save face. Incredibly, was to repeat one of their infamous pipe operations, stuffing troops into sewer systems in the hope of infiltrating Pokrovsk and producing some footage of progress. The Russians have repeatedly tried these tactics in several sectors already, with varying degrees of success and failure. Now, the repetition has played out the same way, with Russian soldiers crawling through the filth only to be eliminated. After the Russians released a video in which they allegedly tried to break into Pokrovsk through the sewer, a Ukrainian officer said they were aware but were not worried. The Ukrainian defenders employed specialists who previously worked on the local pipe network, who stated that advancing through sewer pipes toward Pokrovsk is impossible due to their condition and construction, as they either lack the necessary diameter for a person to pass through or are filled with waste. Obviously, the Russian commanders were lacking this information when they sent their troops inside. And besides the initial footage at the very beginning, where the pipes were still wide enough to crawl through, the most likely outcome was suffocation in the pipes at a later stage of the operation, with them unable to turn around and withdraw. Despite being a valid attempt to try to surprise the Ukrainian defense from behind, this effort proved entirely meaningless, and it is very unlikely to have succeeded because of the Ukrainian high alertness due to all recent infiltration attempts in and around Pokrovsk. Overall, Russia committed significant resources and manpower to the Pokrovsk axis, throwing battalion after battalion against Ukrainian defenses. Yet every thrust on the western, eastern, and northern flanks has collapsed,